Hello and welcome. So I thought I'd make a quick video to show how I prepared this canvas to make it smooth for my Kingfisher tutorial that's coming up soon, in case anyone wonders how I did that, so I can refer back to this video. So if you're like me and you want to paint realistic paintings with lots of fine details, you'll need a smooth canvas, and it took me quite a while to discover this because you cannot find any pre-stretched smooth canvases here in Sweden at all. So I just didn't think they existed, and that's just how canvases are. But when I finally tried a smooth canvas, whoa, what a difference. It makes it so much easier to blend and paint fine lines without that gritty, bumpy look which you would get on a medium to rough canvas. And I hated that, especially when you photograph your work. Those bumps really shows. It makes it look almost pixelated even though you have a really high resolution picture. Now, some people like that look, and that's great. It's just not what I'm going for. Anyway, so here's the supplies that I used. Acrylic gesso, I used the one from Fredrix, a canvas, some fine sandpaper, 2 paintbrushes, one for applying the gesso and one for dusting, a scraper for scraping off the excess. I used a plastic ruler for this, and some newspaper to protect your surface because it can get a bit messy. So this is my canvas. It's just a small, cheap one that you can find at any store that carries art supplies. Nothing fancy. And I'll show you what to do with those wooden wedges at the end of the video in case anybody doesn't know. It took me a while to find out. Just a few years. Yeah, I'm that smart. And this is how it looks before I've done anything to it. It's a medium grained canvas, quite textured. Pour on some gesso and spread it out with a paintbrush. Any paintbrush will do. It doesn't have to be neat or anything, just get it everywhere. Scraping off the excess with a plastic ruler. I tried some paint scrapers too, but they kept leaving marks, and this ruler worked much better for me. And you can't see it, but I'm scraping the gesso off my ruler back into the container, so I'm not wasting anything, because you scrape off a lot, and that gesso is not cheap, unlike the canvas. I went with a more expensive gesso because I was a bit worried that a cheap one could start to peel off or do something weird after a couple of years. I don't know, I just wanted to be safe. I spend a lot of time on my paintings, so I do not want them to get ruined by some cheap gesso. Some people mix their own gesso to save money. There's lots of recipes and videos on how to do that, but I'd rather spend a little more money to be absolutely sure that my paintings will last. Not to say that the others won't, but I'd rather not risk it. Try to scrape it as smooth as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to avoid any deep lines as they can be kind of hard to get rid of later. I'm using a hairdryer to dry it faster, but you can just leave it to dry for about 40 minutes or so. If it's dry to the touch but still feels a little bit tacky, it needs to dry longer. It has to be completely dry before you can sand it. And when it's dry, I sand it with a fine sandpaper in circular motions. Be careful to not overdo it and use a very light hand on the edges. It's very easy to damage the canvas Dust it off with a dry brush. And then repeat the whole process at least 4 times or more to get it really smooth. And this is how it looks after, I think, 5 times of gessoing and sanding. So this is how you insert those wedges. Just push it in and hammer it lightly. You don't have to do it very hard. And as you can see, I got a rubber thing on the hammer for protection so I won't damage them. And this will stretch your canvas a bit more than it already is and make it a bit more stiff. So that's it for this video. I hope that you liked it and that it was helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.